My heart's one desire is to be holy, set apart for you, Lord. I choose to be holy, set apart for you, my Master, ready to do your will. Purify my heart, cleanse me from within, and make me holy. Purify my heart, cleanse me from my sin. Deep within, refine as fire. My heart's one desire is to be holy, set apart for you, Lord. I choose to be holy, set apart for you, my Master, ready to do your will. Refine as fire. My heart's one desire is to be holy, set apart for you, Lord. I choose to be holy, set apart for you, my Master, ready to do your will. I am ready to do your will. We are ready to do your will.
Thank you for this beautiful song. Beautiful. Yesterday, we promised you an interview with a biologist today. That's true. We're gonna come to this point. Actually, today's topic, we divided into pieces. It will be a bit different than all the topics before when it comes to the form of presentation. We'll have first short presentation, and then we'll have this kind of interview with a biologist. But before that, for the first presentation, I would like to ask here Ricardo Pereira to join us and make the introduction to the topic. Welcome, Ricardo. Happy you are with us today.
Good evening. Yeah, this is a very excited crowd. Good evening. Oh, better. Now I feel welcome. Good to be here. I've been almost to just Monday night I couldn't be here, and I am learning a lot. I don't know if you've been here Sunday evening, Tuesday evening, Monday evening. Wow, a lot of information. I'm glad this has been recorded. We can watch later and go over the subjects. But I'm learning a lot. I think it's really interesting and good this whole week, so we can challenge ourselves and our minds with new ideas and new way to see things. Tonight we're going to have an interview with a biologist, and it's interesting to hear from their point of view this conflict of ideas such amazing road we have. It doesn't matter, I've been thinking about this, it doesn't matter if we believe in creation or evolution. One thing we must realize, we live in an amazing universe, amazing planet. And I heard not too long ago someone saying this, and this person couldn't be more right. It doesn't matter if it's creation or evolution, both of them, it's a miracle. Because the way the universe is so complex, and the way that we see our world here in human beings, in biology, in chemistry, and the more we study and the more we learn, we see how complex everything is. If it came out of a Big Bang and evolved, it's a miracle. To think that these amazing things evolved over millions of years, it's a miracle. If we believe there is a being that designed everything the way it is, it's a miracle. So it's amazing. No matter where we go, we are facing amazing things every day, and they happen all the time inside of us. And we look into the universe, and it's fantastic. When we think about this 100 years ago, we had no idea how many stars the universe contains. We had no idea 100 years ago there was a galaxy. And Hubble was the first one who discovered the first galaxy with a big telescope. And now we realize that in the known universe by human beings, they have an estimate of 200 billion galaxies, each one of them with 200 billion stars. That's the estimate. So imagine how huge is the universe. It's just amazing. That's the macrocosmos. It's huge, huge. We have no idea because, of course, we cannot go there. Many things we guess because we see just a little with the telescopes we have. And then we go into the microcosmos. We get into a cell. And before, the time when we had just the microscope, now with the electronic microscope, we can see more details. And there is a whole universe inside of a cell. So it's amazing. Life itself, it's amazing. It's so amazing. And I've been amazed lately because my son was born 2 months ago. And then we think about this. I was researching, and scientists try to estimate how many cells we have in our body. And of course, it varies from people to people. Someone like my friend Jose and I, we are trying to lose some weight, so let's get rid of some cells, right? But they say the average person, think about this, the average person has 37.2 trillion cells. Have an idea what trillion means? Trillion is 1,000 billion, billion is 1,000 million, million is 1,000 thousand. So it's an amazing number. And it all starts with one cell. So now I have this baby growing to become an average person. I hope he becomes very tall, taller than me. He'll be above average, I think, because of the combination of genes. But he's going to have 37.2 maybe trillion cells. But it always started with one cell I donated and one cell my wife donated. Think about this. I didn't miss much, right? I have 37.2 trillion cells. I gave one. It's nothing, nothing. In 37.2 trillion cells. My wife gave one. And he got half of my information, half of my wife's, and I don't know why. You look at him and 90% of him looks like me. My wife says it's unfair. She said that I know he's my son because he came out of me. Because the face, and almost everything looks like me. But I gave 50% of the information. She gave 50% of the information. And now one cell multiplies and it's going to become a completely functional human being with trillions of cells. It's a miracle. It doesn't matter if it came from evolution over millions of years or if it came from creation. It's a miracle. It's fantastic. The chemistry happening inside of us in every organ with its own, and still talking about my son, he looks like me, but I know he's going to change because, you know, babies change, and especially when people come to the teenage years. Even my mother said, I hope he looks more like your wife in the future. If my mother said, because she said, she looks beautiful, and you. So let's hope he's going to grow more into her looks. So this is amazing. And the more we study, the more we get into science and we read and study and we have more knowledge, the more amazed we are of this amazing thing called nature. And let me show you a short video and listen to those scientists, those PhDs, what they say about, I'm not going to spoil, you're going to watch that, but now lately we've been listening, we hear so much about nanotechnology, the tiny little things in our world and what they are being able to develop and do out of that. But inside of us, in our bodies, we have amazing technology in living creatures. So let's see this video and so we can have an idea what I'm talking about.
In Darwin's Black Box in 1996, Behe spotlighted and made famous a number of really interesting discoveries that had been occurring in biochemistry and cell biology over the last 2 or 3 decades. And what biologists, molecular biologists, cell biologists, microbiologists have been discovering is that at the level of individual cells, there are little tiny examples of nanotechnology, little tiny machines at work. The flagellar motor is the one that Behe made most famous. It's a rotary engine that powers a whip-like tail, a protein tail that functions like a propeller, and it moves the bacterium through liquid, enabling the bacterium to essentially track down its food supply. And this little machine includes a rotor, a stator, a drive shaft, a U-joint, bushings, bearings, and a whip-like tail that functions like a propeller. And the machine in some bacterial systems turns at 100,000 RPMs in one direction and can reverse direction on a quarter of a turn and turn 100,000 RPM in the other direction.
A bacterial flagellum is a true nanomachine, about 40 nanometers in size. It's amazing. I mean, E. coli, salmonella, which are kind of our model systems for the bacterial flagellum, can propel a cell about 20 lengths per second through a very viscous medium, like water to these organisms. And you extrapolate that to human scale. 20 body lengths per second, 6-foot person, you know, times 20, 120 feet per second. Mark Spitz or Phelps would be setting records with this type of propulsion.
It's hardwired into a signal transduction circuit that allows the bacterium to sense changes in the sugar gradient in the surrounding liquid.
This signal transduction system is actually a short-term memory system where the cell is, if it's going in the direction of an attractant, a nutrient that it can use to metabolize, it follows that chemical gradient. If it's a repellent, it will sense that and move in the opposite direction. So it's more than just this engine.
It's an extraordinary piece of nanotechnology. It's high-tech in low life. And so just by spotlighting these extraordinary pieces of nanotechnology inside cells, and the flagellar motor wasn't the only one by any means, Behe, in a sense, opened up a window for people. He opened up the black box of the inner workings of the cell and said, look, this is much more complex than anything than anything that the early evolutionary biologists had envisioned. Darwin knew nothing of this type of nanotechnology in cells, and at the very least, we've got to come up with an explanation for this.
Thank you. So you see something so tiny as a bacteria. What kind of technology? How could a human being develop something like that? It's in nature. So how did that happen? It's something that amazes us. So it's an amazing and fantastic, miraculous world we live in. And life itself it demands respect from each one of us. So in the end, it's a miracle. No matter if it came out of creation or evolution, it's a miracle. And we have to decide what kind of miracle we believe. Because, you know, we see something like this and blows our mind. So now we are going to have an interview with a biologist, and biologists know a lot about this kind of things, and I'm sure as they study, they learn a lot, and it amazes them. And maybe tonight we can learn something from a biologist. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you. Indeed. Just give me a second. I need to prepare the stage to have our visitor here. Just a moment. Yeah, I think now I'm ready. So now we will reveal who is this mysterious biologist among us. Let me welcome Michelle, please, as well. Welcome her with a warm applause. Thank you for coming. Welcome. Please choose where do you want to. Do you have a good light? That's very important. Oh, I forgot my phone. Okay. How are you today? Okay? Yeah. Actually, I think we need a second microphone because... Yeah.
Hey, everyone.
I have to say it was pretty selfish on my side. I just took the microphone.
Okay, we can handle.
Expecting you shouting, or I don't know. As probably not everyone knows you, can you just say in a few words, know where you're from, who are you, just in a few words maybe that we...
Yes. I'm the mother of that one that just cried. Well, my name is Michelle. I'm a biologist. And I am the one that married that guy that was here a couple minutes ago. Mm-hmm. So I am the half cell, the half part of my baby, the 50%. Well, I graduated in Brazil in 2007, long time ago. Don't do the math, okay? And well, nowadays a lot of things changed, of course, and we have much more information, of course. But at that time, we barely had internet connection. So imagine that changed a lot. Yeah.
That's okay. I heard actually that, yeah, you are a biologist. I introduce you even like this, but I heard that you're creationist biologist. Can you explain us? How did it happen?
Yes.
I don't think so. It's so common.
Well, actually, nowadays it is more common because people say that they are creationists. At that time, it wasn't very popular to say.
So tell us how it was.
Yes. Back then, what happened is that I have a creationist background. My family, they are Christians. I was Christian. I never had that moment that I was evolutionist, okay? But I didn't know anything about my beliefs. I was that kind of Christian that follows Christ somehow because the family has a tradition. Maybe that's familiar for many of you. You just follow the traditions that your family has. So it was more like I was Christian, so the Christians are creationists. But I didn't have any idea what was that actually. So I decided to go to college. I chose biology and I started studying. Then what happened is that I found out that I didn't know anything about what was supposed to be my beliefs. So I actually had to study something about it because it's kind of embarrassing when people ask you about what you say you believe, but you don't know how to explain. And then I started college. The first semester, it was terrible because I didn't know anything about what I believed. So what happened is that first I had to find something to explain my life to my professors, to my classmates, and I didn't know where to begin. So I remember that I studied in a Christian school. I was talking to my sister, and she said, maybe you should go back there and talk with the teachers that we have. Maybe they have some news for you that can help you. I was like, why not? So I went there, and sure enough, they had some information to share. So this teacher, she said, she was the science teacher at that time. She said, well, what a coincidence, because I'm going to teach a class exactly about evolutionism and creationism. And I was like, what are the odds that I come here exactly at that day that she will teach those classes? Well, nowadays you can say, she wasn't really thinking about it. She was just doing that because you were there asking for that. But no, it was exactly the classes that she would teach that day. Because she had the same classes 5 times, 5 periods in the morning, she taught the same class. So it was in the program. And then we started talking about it. She presented, well, it was in Brazil. The law here, I think Johan said something about that the schools, they cannot teach creationism. In Brazil, you can teach creationism, but at the same time, the program, all the schools need to teach evolutionism. So at that moment, she explained both of the systems, both of the theories, and then she explained that to the students, of course, very simple way, but then after the classes, we talked about it. And she gave me some very important information. Then I realized that, oh, that's just the beginning, I need to know more. But at that moment, I was having classes at the university, and it was very, very difficult, because in the beginning of the classes, you have like a professor that says, 70% of you won't have good grades. Don't worry, you'll repeat this next semester. I was like, what? 70% of the students don't have good grades in this? And it's about evolution, and I don't believe in that, and I don't know how to explain that. I don't know anything about it, so it's going to be embarrassing for me. And it's going to be hard to have good grades if I don't believe in that. But at the same time, I didn't know how to explain what I believed. So I really had to study hard to go through that system that, this is theory, but they present you as a fact. So I had a hard time in that moment, but I said that I needed to explain the way they would teach us, but at the same time, I didn't believe in that. So every time that I had a test, an exam, I would say, according to Darwin, it's like this, this, and that. But I don't really think this way. I think this, this, and that. So I would give the answer that he wanted. I would have the grades, because it was right. But at the same time, I would explain my point of view. So I really started learning about it when I was asked about it. Before, I really didn't care. And at that time, why I said something about online connection, because at that time, I didn't even realize, I didn't know anything about other scientists that would think the same way. I thought, well, I am the only crazy one in here. Now, for the ones that have more than 35 years old here, you know that back then, it wasn't that easy to have all the information that we have online now. So I didn't know that there was a creationist society, the international creationist societies. Nowadays, you get online, you have like more than 50 websites that give you enough information to survive this kind of problems that we have, like giving you information, giving you studies, giving you many new papers that give you new information to defend your beliefs.
And do you have maybe in your memory some examples? Because I get you have many interaction with your colleagues, for example, with your professors maybe. I'm not talking about the test itself, but maybe some conversation where you actually, okay, you pass the test, you write whatever they wanted to write, like you said, quoting Darwin or quoting other, but I guess you had these moments where you were sharing, but actually I believe something else. Then what type of reaction you had and what type of conversation you maybe remember?
I remember that I really studied hard when the first class he said that 70% don't pass. The second class, then they started mocking, like, you know, this religious thing is just because people don't really think they think they are too important. That's not about just you die and that's it. So they think they are more important than the others. So he was starting mocking with the religious thing. Then I was like, oh my God, I won't survive. I won't survive 6 months like this. Because nobody was saying anything. And I was like, I am the only one. So I had to talk because I couldn't just stay for 6 months like listening to this kind of situation. So I started talking with him. He was a very nice professor. He was a very nice person. And then I said, well, you know, I have different beliefs. I understand that you are presenting this evolution theory in a way that you are kind of even close to get me into that, because you are very strong in your arguments. But I believe in another way, and I want you to respect the way I feel. So we had some... After that, he started respecting me more, not mocking about it, but at the same time, he was like, you know, you're wrong. He just doesn't know. You need to study more. When you study more, you understand. Then you change your point of view. So I couldn't stand that kind of position. He was kind of arrogant. So my classmates were kind of joking about it. It was very hard that semester. It was very hard because of this kind of... I was a joke.
Pressure.
Yes, pressure. Yes, very. And they used to be a little arrogant. Like, I know everything. You don't know. And at that time, I didn't know. I didn't know how to say, like, they were very strong in what they believed. They knew what they were talking about. But they don't present as a theory, they present as a fact. Even though the name of the discipline was Theory of Evolution. But they don't present as theory, they present as fact. And when you have anything against that, they don't really listen to that. They don't want to open their minds to talk about it. So I really remember that. Sadly, the two professors I had that taught about evolution both died very early. So I never had the chance.
The time you were coursing?
During the time of the, one died during the college time, and the other one 2 years after that. So I never had the chance to go back there with more arguments. And it's interesting that what happened, but I never had the chance to go back there and talk about it. But after some classes, probably 2 or 3 weeks after that, I had two classmates that came to me to talk about it because they had the same beliefs, but they wouldn't say a word about it.
And how was it?
And since then we became friends. But they were like, I don't know if we should talk about it because he said 70% don't pass, don't have grades. And then you talk about it, he'll probably get you as a special one during the class, and you don't want to be that one. So I had some moments that were very hard to go through. But that made me stronger. That made me go after the information. So once I did it, one of the good things about it, I went back to the school to talk about with the teacher. And I didn't know, but she was the responsible to write. She's a writer, and she is the one that writes all the books for that brand. So all the schools, more than 100 schools use the books that she writes. So she really knew what she was talking about. So I think that there is something about it behind the scenes.
Okay. I'm wondering, because if I can just place myself, for example, because I remember when was during my studies, you're young and you see the professors with the authority behind, you're like feeling really little.
Yeah.
You came with your beliefs, but without arguments, yeah? Just what you said. And how did you actually went through this process? Because I guess you were encouraged to really check it, yeah? Because maybe you even have some doubts sometimes, yeah? When they were explaining this. How was this process? Did you reach some level that you said, oh, okay, and now I'm convinced what I believe, or how it was?
In the beginning of the process, I was sure that there was an explanation for everything. I just didn't know. But every class, like 3 hours, somebody that knows more than you, as you said, like you look up, that person saying things about it, after a while you kind of start wondering, is that true? Am I so wrong? Was that, I don't know, maybe I was just following a tradition. So in the beginning I was sure. After a couple hours listening to the professors, I wasn't sure at all. And then I had to study more. But I had some guidance. I had the teacher that I mentioned, and then she had an event in that school. She brought very good people to talk about the subject. So I started the process of studying. And then I started again that process of studying. I realized that I was sure about it. I knew that those beliefs were right. But I wasn't sure how to present to other people. But I never felt that I wasn't really going through the right direction. But then I would go back to the college and they would have another class, and I was like, oh my God, again, 3 hours of information, and then I need to know more about this again. So it was, the whole process was like I would say 1 year that I was going back and forth, thinking that I knew, I don't know anything. I know more, no, I don't know anything. So I was just going back and forth because of that situation. I would say that after the passing those two disciplines, being part of the 30% that passed, then I became friends with the professors. because they wanted to prove me wrong.
Oh, really?
That's
Okay.
the thing. They wanted to prove me wrong. So we would spend hours talking about it. But I didn't have much information. I was like, I want to prove that I have some points, but I didn't have many things to share. So I would say that after 1 year, I was sure about it, but I couldn't really defend my points.
Okay,
Yeah,
fair enough.
that's the truth.
Any examples? Because I'm still kind of curious about the differences of those two theories. For example, which was very difficult for you to explain from evolution, or something maybe from the other side that like gives you another understanding. You have some maybe examples from your field of biology that
Yeah.
might be interesting as well for us.
There are so many things. First, sometimes we don't really know if it's true or not, but when they present to you, you just, wow, that's amazing. But you don't go through the system that I say you always need to go and check by yourself. You need to do your own studies. And what amazed me in the beginning was the complexity of the things. And they just explain to you, like, it's simple, it works like this, then you have this process, after that you have another process, and then you have another process, and this is how evolution works. And I was like, my God, this is so complex. I cannot really understand that it's somebody that can just say that is a process that's simple. It's not simple at all. Like the blood clots, for example. But for me, what really, in the beginning, in the first semester, I had the first studies in cells. So I even brought a short video because I wanted to share this with you. Very simple, very simple. Like you know now, of course, you all went through those basic studies at school, that the beginning was a very simple organism. So we kind of evolved from the bacteria, let's say this way, very summarizing. The bacteria is not simple at all. It's a very complex organism. And in that simple organism, we have many proteins. The protein for me was the first thing that wowed me, like amazed me, because I was like, protein is not that easy to make, it's not that simple. So I just brought a video I wanted to share because it's just 2 minutes, just to have the basic information, so we talk more about it.
Here is a cell, the basic unit of all living tissue. In most human cells, there is a structure called the nucleus. The nucleus contains the genome. In humans, the genome is split between 23 pairs of chromosomes. Each chromosome contains a long strand of DNA, tightly packaged around proteins called histones. Within the DNA are sections called genes. These genes contain the instructions for making proteins. When a gene is switched on, an enzyme called RNA polymerase attaches to the start of the gene. It moves along the DNA, making a strand of messenger RNA out of free bases in the nucleus. The DNA code determines the order in which the free bases are added to the messenger RNA. This process is called transcription. Before the messenger RNA can be used as a template for the production of proteins, it needs to be processed. This involves removing and adding sections of RNA. The messenger RNA then moves out of the nucleus into the cytoplasm. Protein factories in the cytoplasm, called ribosomes, bind to the messenger RNA. The ribosome reads the code in the messenger RNA to produce a chain made up of amino acids. There are 20 different types of amino acid. Transfer RNA molecules carry the amino acids to the ribosome. The messenger RNA is read 3 bases at a time. As each triplet is read, a transfer RNA delivers the corresponding amino acid. This is added to a growing chain of amino acids. Once the last amino acid has been added, the chain folds into a complex 3D shape to form the protein.
Do you think that's simple?
No.
It
Doesn't look simple
It
and-
is simple. That's the basics for to make a protein. So I really have a hard time till today to look at this and think this is simple. And this is just to make a protein. Then if you think about the E. coli, the bacteria that it's the one that was most studied, that we know everything about E. coli already, is a bacteria. This bacteria has inside it 2,400,000 proteins. So to make that one, you have 2,400,000 inside a single bacteria. So it means it's that simple. And then you have the bacteria, the basic cell. It's very basic, the bacteria. And then from that, you have the evolution from more complex or more than, because a bacteria is not that simple. Even though they say it's the simplest cell you can have, it's not simple at all. Then from that, you have many, many, many complexity that comes more and more and more till you get here. Then we make a baby. And it's that simple. I can't understand that. And I can't look at that and say, it's so simple. It happens like, it's like if we just start from, let's get some ingredients, and I ask you to bake a cake. What do you need to bake a cake? Do you bake a cake? Do you know how to bake a cake? Because if I ask my husband, I don't know if he would have the answer.
My mother-in-law, I need.
Yeah? So please
That's a
bake
basic
a cake.
ingredient.
So what do you need to do to bake a cake?
Ingredients.
You need some
flour,
ingredients. You can help.
Eggs.
Well, I can prove you that you can bake a cake without eggs. Over there, they can prove too. If you want to go to the bar, you can have the examples. You can bake a cake. So even if I give you the ingredients and you don't know how to do it, I guess we won't have a cake at the end. And even if you know how to do it, you can make mistakes and the cake won't be good at the end, right?
Well, could be.
So if you have ingredients and you know how to do it, it doesn't mean that you have success at the end, a good result at the end. So imagine if you don't even know where to get the ingredients. You don't even know which ingredients to use. And I'm giving you a simple example that you don't need more than 6 or 7 things to make a cake. We are talking about this kind of simplicity. For me, that's very complex. And this is the basic that we need. So that at the same time that I was having the classes for evolution, I was having the cells classes. So you study what's inside the cell. Very simple, but it's not simple at all, as you can see. So once you have this kind of information, and then you put in your mind, okay, so we come from this kind of bacteria, you go through all the things we know that we need to go through to get to the human beings. And then another thing that amazed me, but now even more, because now I'm a mother, I can't understand how we can create a life. Because, as my husband said, it's a cell and another cell. We just put those two cells together at the right moment, and then it can, at the end, be a human being, in our case. But all the animals that can produce another life is the same thing. So it means you just not have this complex system to become a human being, but you can also produce another human being. And this is so complex. And then the baby is born. And the person here changes completely, because I need to have enough energy. My hormones need to change because I need to keep him alive. So even that, in my mind, in my body, everything changes, because I need to keep him alive. Not just that. Emotionally, you change. Physically, emotionally, it's a big change. It's not simple at all. So all this complexity, I mean, evolution can explain some kind of order, but doesn't explain complexity. What it means, you can have small parts together. It doesn't mean that those small parts will work. You can have a car and place parts together. It doesn't mean that the car will work and you will be able to move from one place to another place. You need to have all those small parts in the right spots, in the right places working together, then you move the car from one spot to another spot. So the complexity means that you have many parts that work together in the right moment, in the right time, in the right position. Everything needs to work together in order for that organism to really be successful. If one little thing doesn't work, nothing else works. What's the difference between evolution and creationism? In my mind, I can see the simple things are not simple at all. The complexity that we have, it's impossible to come out of the blue. Needs to have somebody, something, organizing things. And that's for me is the simple thing. But when you go through physics, not just biology, physics, biochemistry, it's amazing. It's amazing how complex it is. And I would say, okay, how evolution can explain that we can produce another life? There are explanations, of course. But between the moment, let me see, we start deciding that we will produce lives, okay? We will produce another human being. To the moment that that human being is real, really works, is function, has everything working in place, the right time, what happens in between? How we can start that if we don't have a result at the end? We don't have anything in between. So it's too complex. Too complex to really, it's a lot of faith to believe in evolution. Even more, I would say.
Even more than?
Even more than to believe in creationism.
Okay.
Much more.
Thank you for going back a little bit in the time, but and as well making this link with today and with your experience. I guess you learned before about all these things you are now experiencing as a biologist. But maybe one more question, like recently, when you already went through the process of education and as well as answering those doubts and questions and making yourself probably comfortable what you believe. When someone like approach you today and asking you about the beliefs, how you explain it, how you lead this conversation? Now, they are maybe not scientists and biologists, yeah? How you talk about it?
Well, when they're not science, from the scientifically field, it's easier. Because when people come to you, they approach, and they really want to know, when they have their open mind, it's easier. Because when somebody, the problems that we have with people from science is that people usually think they know more than other people. And this is this arrogance is a little too much. So what happens is that I can just try the same way that they did to me in the past. This teacher, what amazed me at the moment, she said, you know, I have some information about it. I would like to share with you if you want. She was so open and friendly and nice about it. And when she was speaking about it, she said, you know, maybe you don't believe in that. I believe in that. And these are my reasons, but maybe I'm wrong. So when she said that, I was like, wow, my professor never said that he was wrong. Never a teeny tiny possibility about it. So the first thing that I say is, this is what I believe, and I can show you why, and I can give you some information. Of course, there are so many websites, so it's impossible to know everything. We don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers. So there are ways to find answers. You don't need to have all the answers when people come to you and ask questions. It's impossible to know everything. And when you know that, you are humble enough to open for the people to ask you other questions. And I can be wrong. I'm sure about it, but I can be wrong. That's the difference. When you know you can be wrong, you are more open. And then people feel that you are open. And you don't want to prove something to other people. You just want to share your point of view. That's what I do. I answer the questions that I can. I don't know everything, so I just say, I will look some information about it, and then I can come back to you to answer your question. Or you can introduce people that can help. But I always have in mind that I don't know everything, and maybe I'm wrong. So if I may be wrong, I can share my point of view, and I can ask questions to the other person, because the other person has a point of view too. And maybe I'm wrong, and that person's right. I think that's the difference, because we don't want to be arrogant. And the arrogance that we have in many, I'm not saying that everybody's like this, but many people that believe in the evolution, they think they know everything, that they are right, that people that think different are wrong because they are stupid. That's the reality, because they don't know enough, they didn't study enough. So I'm very careful, because I don't want to have this kind of position, that I know more than you, or that I know I have the truth, you are wrong. So this kind of position for me is the most important thing, because if you are humble, you can learn more. If you don't really have an open mind, you don't learn and you don't share what you know. That's the basic for me. And that's why I think we don't need to share as like it's the truth. We need to share like, this is the point of view that I have. And be open, because you can learn more. That's what I think.
Thank you. Fair enough.
Thank you.
That's, yeah, I think due to the time as well, that's all my questions for this evening. I'll just maybe look at you, dear friends. If someone of you have any question to our guest, you can raise your hand. I see one. Just a moment, I will bring you a microphone.
Maybe this one is easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there is a portable one. Yeah, so you can as well reply.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Hello.
I'm totally sensitive to the different points that you mentioned, but how can you answer to your evolutionist colleague when they say that creationism isn't science? isn't scientific theory. I do agree with a lot of things that you mentioned, but sometimes it's quite like a deaf discussion, because when you try to speak with them, they told you it's not science.
Well, I wasn't here yesterday, but I know that. Were you here yesterday? No. Yesterday, I know that Johan explained some things about this. Maybe you can even watch the video to have more information about it. But evolution is not science, it's a religion. And creation is not science, it's a religion. And both of them have science in that. Both of them have faith in that. So we get to the point that, yes, we have science in both, but we get to the point that we need to have some faith to believe in that, one thing or another. But yes, there are proofs, scientifically speaking. We have many websites. For example, we have creationist.org. You get in that website, you have on the corner, you have many other websites. They are all scientific websites. They are all creationist websites. They are all supported by science. Scientists that have their papers that publish since the 50s. We have that. Yes, I didn't know when I started. When I said I started the process of studying and going deeper, that's what I meant. Then you have many, many new papers in science that prove many of the things that we believe. So we get to the point that we are the same level, okay?
More in America than in Europe, no? In Europe, they are more evolutionist, no?
I would say that worldwide is kind of the same. We have universities that we have some people there that say something different, but most of the time it's evolutionism, yes, when the professors teach is evolutionism. But we have many scientists that work in the field and are creationists. So you can have many examples. If you just go to the websites, you just check online, you have Johan, the scientist that's here presenting his creationism. He can give you many examples that his colleagues or people that he knows that believe in creationism. So it is more that we hear, oh, it's like this, but it's not. We have many, many, many information that you can find online, people that are really, they know what they're doing. It's not like they're talking about it. They know what they're doing. It's real science. They have support. They have financial support, and they give you points. It's the same thing as the evolutionism. Yeah, we just need to go through those information so we know more. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. If not, thank you for coming. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's a bit of being brave to sit here and being interviewed with the questions. So thank you for sharing something from your personal experience. We appreciate, and let's make a big applause for Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, now we'll have another song. So I will invite CJ and Lizzie, already here. Just CJ, okay. Just preparing for the song. I will ask my friends from the team to share with you our small survey, as we do every day. So you can give us the feedback. You can put some question if you have, and as well if you're interested about from the materials, maybe as well as we said from like previous days, we can send you. Yeah, there's nothing that we are not open and transparent, so we can send you all the presentations from previous days. And actually, about your question, it was actually quite a lot about it, interesting things, so you can have a look. Okay, and now let's listen to CJ.
Thank you. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. There was grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did the grace appear the hour I first believed. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me, and like a flood His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me, and like a flood His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. The earth shall soon dissolve like snow, the sun forbear to shine, but God would call me here below will be forever mine, will be forever mine. You are forever mine.